But yeah, I love
What's
that
his
shit.
name?
Robert Eggers.
Robert Eggers.
He fucking rules. That yeah.
Yeah, he rules. That he did a fucking fantastic job with the Northmen. It was like perfect amount of like fantasy and reality and the brutal reality of like the way they fought. There was nothing unrealistic about it.
In the beginning when they're just fucking up like women and children.
Jesus
You're like, yeah, this is
Christ.
what the Vikings were like.
That's what they did.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of fucking people did throughout human history.
Dude,
the Mongols did it.
It's crazy because I'm on a big history kick, and I'm reading about like I was like I'm on the Trojan War tip a little bit on some Greek. I'm reconnecting with my roots a little bit, but I also
You got some badass roots, brother.
Ancient Greece.
The
fucking
Greeks?
rules. Yeah.
Come on, son. You
Yeah.
come from one of the most important histories in all of the human race.
No, it's the best. Yeah.
They did some wild shit in your country.
Truly. No, it's fucking awesome. But you think about, and I'm also fascinated by medieval times, and you just think about like all the history that we learn is about like, oh, this king fucked this king up and this.
Yeah.
But it's like, and they always just kind of gloss over like, and you know, the army raided the countryside. And it's like, imagine being the fucking assholes on the countryside outside of the city. You're outside Athens, you're outside of Troy, whatever. You just get fucked like every 10 years when some asshole, some rich asshole, some guy with running water, he gets to decides he wants to fuck up your town. He just comes through, steals your shit, takes your fucking wife, kills your son, and you just have to like, now you fucking get turnips for him. or he kills you too. It's just like I think about how fucked up it would have been to just be a peasant that's caught in between this shit.
Yeah.
And it's like you're just a piece of property that gets like who you have to pay taxes to changes every 20 years, and every 20 years they come in and just fuck, just fuck rape everyone, take all your gold.
Well, that was what people liked about Game of Thrones too. Like Game of Thrones, they were behaving like we would expect them to behave if they lived in this dimension.
Yeah. Oh, fully. It was brutal and all that.
Horrible.
Kind of shit.
There was no like heroes. There was no unrealistic modern Marvel movie heroes.
Yeah.
Everyone was flawed and full of chaos. It was just all horrible.
That's what I love about Greek mythology. It's just like you look at their gods and you know what a fucked up society it was. Zeus is he's God, right?
Yeah.
And God, it just tells you what Greek people are like, because God is a guy who cheats on his wife constantly. Like that's his whole big thing. Zeus and Hera are like a fucking sitcom where it's like, oh honey, like that kind of. He's just like, oh, you don't get mad at me, and he just sneaks out and like takes the form of a swan and fucks a woman, and then like comes back and she's like, were you getting pussed? And he's like, no, it's just like that was our God, like the main God. He couldn't stop getting side pussy. It's like that's what our society, that's what our ancient society was built on. He would like become a bull and just see a cow that looked hot. He wouldn't even just fuck people. He would fuck hot animals. It was like and that's like the cornerstone of Greek mythology.
Wow.
Like all the heroes are like half the heroes are people that Zeus just fucked. Hercules.
Where do you think those stories came from? Where do you think the stories obviously they were told for so long before anybody wrote them down.
For sure.
Where do you think they came from?
I think, just like everything else, it's like it's people trying to make sense of a crazy and chaotic world. You know what I mean? And it's just like people are just like, I think they just lived in a society where that's what their rulers were like. So that's what Zeus was going to be like.
That's what makes people join cults. That's what makes people woke. That's what makes people everything. You want to make sense. You want to put order to things.
Fully. And I will say I like Greek mythology because it's really like, it's just interesting.
Yeah.
It's like
so fascinating.
And how many different fucking gods and shit that they have? Like,
how many gods were there?
The main ones, there was 12 main gods of Mount Olympus, but it was like there's demigods and like half, and like it's lesser gods, and there's like hundreds. And it's like, it's this thing of like, that's what I really like is that Greek mythology, it's like, monotheism, it's pretty straightforward. It's kind of boring. You know what I mean? It's like there's one God. Sometimes, there's three of, the Holy Spirit, the Jesus, all that kind of shit. But it's like polytheism is fucking sick because it's like there's just a God of fucking getting fucked up. Like there's just a God that's like Dionysus. He was the God of having a good ass time. That guy fucking rules, dude. That was my guy.
Wow.
There's like a hunter god. Athena is this interesting, like she's the goddess of wisdom. And
Who's the hunter god?
What the fuck? I'm blanking on her. It's a woman though. But there's like a god, you know, Ares obviously, or Ares the god of war.
They had a lot of badass female gods.
Yeah, Athena, Artemis. That's right.
Artemis in
Yeah,
Greek
the goddess
religion
of
is
wild
the
animals
goddess of wild animals, the hunt and vegetation, and of chastity.
Yeah.
And childbirth. She was identified by the Romans with Diana. Artemis was the daughter of Zeus and Leto, and the twin sister of Apollo.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Zeus fucked like every goddess and just made other goddesses, and like Athena, just came out of his head. So that's the interesting thing. It's like she was the wisdom of God was just like came out of his head, and now it's just all into one lady. It's so fascinating.
Have you ever heard of Brian Muraresku in the book called The Immortality Key?
No.
It's an amazing book. And this guy dedicated like more than a decade of his life to studying ancient Greece and the use of psychedelics in wine.
Oh, hell yeah.
And they've opened up a field of study at Harvard because of this.
Fuck yeah.
Because of this guy's work. Like, he's a legitimate scholar and
rules.
dedicated his time to this.
Yeah.
And he's like a straight edge guy. He doesn't do drugs.
Yeah.
And
he's not some guy's like, dude, what if they were getting fucked up, man?
I bet, man. That's me. That's the fucking source of it all, bro. No, this guy's like a legit
Professor
guy.
Rogan.
I mean, fucking what I heard.
Dude.
Eddie Bravo told me. This is like, one time I was talking.
Yeah.
But these guys found these ancient wine vessels that contained psychedelic compounds. So they found residue of ergot and a bunch of other stuff. So when they drank wine, they didn't just drink wine. They were tripping balls. They drank wine with like LSD in it, basically.
Well, I think that's probably, so the guy I was talking about, Dionysus, the god of just getting fucked up, they would have these like huge festivals, and they would just they would have huge parties and literally orgies off wine, and I'm sure they were
100%
because they're coming up with all these satyrs and they're coming up with wood nymphs and mermaids and all this kind of shit, and it's like, was it a mermaid or was some guy drinking mushroom wine and he fucked a seal? You know what I mean? He's like, no, she was hot.
She was so fucking
It was a
hot.
goddess, bro. He just dug a hole in some sand and beat off into it, and he was like,
She wasn't much of a kisser.
Yeah.
Fucking a lot of the way.
Yeah, the head wasn't that great, but the pussy. They're like, sick, dude. That's awesome.